Welcome back to the Turn on the Music podcast. We are up to episode 23, and we are going to be talking about a new album that came out, was it last week? I think it was last week, by Victor Wooten and Steve Bailey. But to do that, I need to have my faithful compadre, Mr. CJ. How are you, sir?
Good. And who are you again? What's your name?
I don't know.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you so much.
Sir.
Thank you, Kyle. Guys, the person I speak with every week who apparently forgets who he is. His name is Kyle.
Yeah. It's all the brain stuff. Yeah.
It's been, it is what it is, How is that?
Yeah, it is.
How you doing? How's it going?
It's going. It's been crazy lately. So you know a little bit about my sleep issues that I've been having.
Right.
My symptoms have gotten like way worse the last couple months. So luckily I have a sleep test study thing to get a CPAP, but I'll be honest, like these last couple months, I've been forgetting stuff and like just weird memory things going on. So I've been fighting that, and but other than that, things are good. I mean, I'm tired as always, but I'm used to being tired. So how about you, sir? How have you been?
Well, first, I totally understand that because as I mentioned, I'm in a similar situation. I do have sleep apnea that I deal with. Unfortunately, when you're sick, it's very hard to use that machine because you're congested and it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And the past couple of weeks, I've had sinus infection, and my household, we just got over COVID, so we're congested because we have that variant, and it's a tough thing. I've been there. I remember, well, ironically, I remember not remembering having situations where I couldn't remember something, and I totally feel that. Totally get that.
Yeah, I have to say the results to my test were alarming. I stopped breathing 78 times an hour.
That's severe.
And my blood oxygen falls down to 60% when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, that's
like, it's crazy. So like that makes sense. Like now I know why I'm forgetting things. Now I know why I'm struggling to play the piano. Like I'm sure my vision's part of that whole thing too. So
yeah.
I'm excited to get it fixed. So end of the month I've got a test, and then hopefully we'll be back on the mend. So
we're just advocating for the fact that you'd be surprised. I'm used to not sleeping a certain amount at night. And from growing up, I just never slept well. And that was for other reasons. But as you get older, whether it's a weight-related thing, whether it's a something else, because it could be, some completely different, I know people that are half my size that have it, and it's just because of something else that's going on. If you're having sleep problems, definitely.
Yeah, I got friends at work who are like pencil thin, run every day, and they've got it. So it's. And the weird thing is like this is the sort of thing like I'm sure I've been dealing with this for years and years and years, and I just haven't realized how bad, and like with my dogs are very regimented. We have a very strict schedule. They're in bed by 9:00. I'm usually in bed by 10:30. We're up at 6:30, so it's not like a lack of sleep time. It's just a lack of good sleep is what's causing the issue.
Right,
so,
right. Do you I've spoken that I have tinnitus. Have you felt anything in your ears at all?
No, nothing in my ears. I have noticed that every once in a while I have like a very, very dull headache.
Okay.
Like not a lot, but like just, it just kind of feels like it could almost be a headache, but not really.
When you're waking up or?
Just during the day. Like there are times where I wake up with extremely bad headaches.
That's the lack of oxygen. That's the lack of breathing.
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think also depends on how you wake up and when you wake up in that cycle.
Right.
So, that's a rare occurrence, but yeah, and I'll tell you, I've woken up gasping for air. So it's scary.
It's scary. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely scary.
I learned last night. It was the night before. That so a lot of this can be caused by like fat around your neck can collapse your airway. But what I didn't realize is that because everyone says, "Oh, just lose weight and you'll be better," but when you have sleep apnea, your body secretes cortisol, so your body holds on to fat more, so it's harder to lose the weight. So it's it's all this kind of weird cycle and
and that's one of the things that I've spoken about to my ENT, who happens to be the person that deals with this, and he said the exact thing. He goes, "You have to lose weight, but I understand you're in a vicious cycle because."
Right.
if you don't go to sleep and you don't get that REM, your body doesn't get to the point where it can start the metabolism process during the night.
Exactly.
So when you wake up, you're, like you said, you're in that weird cycle where you're never really, you can lose weight, you can change your diet, you can exercise, but because of that, if you try to get yourself back to a normal regimen, you're right back into gaining weight because your sleep apnea is not working. Yeah, no, it's tough.
I'm actually down like 15 pounds since the beginning of August.
Awesome.
So that's a good thing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
So what do you listen to these days? Let's get back on the music.
I paused because I fell asleep. No, I'm joking. Due to COVID and having to quarantine, I have been working remotely, so I haven't like been in my car driving, which is where I tend to listen to my music mostly. But the past couple days, I for fun threw on Kyle's guilty pleasure.
Nice.
His Carly Rae Jepsen.
Carly Rae Jepsen,
yeah. And then I used to listen to this person many moons ago, Josh Stone. Now the album that
you sent me that, I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but you did send that to me.
Not that I forgot about her, because it's like you listen to them and you're like, oh no, that's great, but I don't want to say that forgot, but I guess so, yeah, because I was introduced to the album. Introducing Josh Stone was the name of the album. I remember the art because it was like the back of her and there's like graffiti all over the album. And I forget who did it. It may have been my dad who picked up the CD because, you know, there's a half-naked girl on it probably. And he was like, oh, you should listen to her. She's very talented. She's from the UK. And, you know, her most recent album, which I think was either 21, 22, is a jazz R&B album, whereas the one that I was talking about, introducing Josh Stone, is a pop album and does have more pop feel to it, and, you know, has some, you know, she has like Lauryn Hill's on there rapping and stuff.
Lauryn Hill's on.
Yeah, that's actually a great song. That song, Music, I think it's called. And if you have it up, can you want to play?
I do.
Play a little bit of that. Yeah.
Music.
Yeah, play a little bit of music.
Nothing in this world got me like you do, baby. I give up my soul if I could sing with you daily. I'm not the only girl in love with you. It's crazy. I appreciate your groove. Now I know I owe everything to you. Music. I'm so in love with my music. The way you're keeping me. Ain't nobody do what you do. So bring me back to the day when tape decks press play. DJ drop the needle to the record, just play. You are my sunlight. You are the one mic that sounds so sweet, cause the beat just inspires me, yo. No limit to your mind. Your endless love is open to every race and kind. Could it be your blood runs golden?
That's really good.
And because of her most recent album, like I said, is a more of a jazz R&B album. There's a bigger horn section, and you know, like I didn't listen to the album. I'm gonna go back to it, but the album name is Never Forget My Love, which is a 2022 album. But I think I listened to the first like song or two, and you can definitely feel there's definitely more horns in it. So
let's take a listen to.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Let's listen to the title track, Never Forget My Love.
Can I remind you about the time you insisted upon being mine? I was taken aback, but somehow I just accepted that was fine. Oh, baby, your love was crazy. All over the time you gave me. Oh, baby, you drive me crazy. Oh, never forget my love.
very powerful voice. I know I've heard of her before. I don't remember ever listening to her though.
Well, but you also remember like her previous stuff, and this is not a bad thing. I don't mean this in a bad way, because I do like her previous stuff. A lot of it was popish, so you may have not gone to it. Like even the next album, 2011, LP1 was still considered pop, but let's and then I skipped to 2015. Water for Your Soul is now an R&B and soul album. So she transitioned at some point her music, and I feel like even in her pop, so the one before that other is called Soul Sessions. It's still pop, but you still can feel the soul and the R&B in it. She probably just, but now, what do you, so that horn section, horns or electronic?
I think electronic.
That, right? It sounded electronic to me. So I'm going to listen to the album. Anyway, just, she happened to come up and I always liked her voice, and I wanted to see all the other albums that she has out, and I'm going to, take a moment to listen through them. And that's kind of really what I was doing, was just kind of playing that stuff in the background. And I know I asked you earlier about instrumental stuff, like I think it was yesterday, and I was like, industrial. you're like, yes. what the hell are you talking about? So the reason why I say that, if any of you out there are, I don't know if you're necessarily history buffs or you're interested in the random things that happen in the past. We all have heard of Chernobyl, and they did a short series on HBO, and I thought it was very well done. And someone told me to watch it, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna watch it. What is it gonna be about? And it's not that many episodes, but it's just really well done. And the of course there's music composed for it, and I'm gonna say her name wrong, so I'm not gonna even attempt it, but it's Hildur. And then it's Guonadottir, and there's some accents and a couple of letters. It has a very industrial feel to it. You're sharing your music right now. I don't know if you have it up, but I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I do.
If you want to just grab one of the tracks. So sure. I'm a huge fan of this type of composition. They're not long tracks. It's not like they're 10-minute songs because they're written for the show. But she's very talented. So I don't know if you, like I said, grab whatever song on the thing and just play it, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's very minimalistic in a sense.
Yeah.
Now, just to show what she's done that you would never have known that she's done, she did the original motion picture soundtrack to the Joker movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if it's multiple composers. She also did Sekiro, The Day of the Dead, the Soldat, the movie Sekiro, and she's composed on Battlefield 2042 video game.
Okay.
So she's done some stuff,
yeah.
I happen to like that weird, not 100% minimalistic, but it, it's, that type of thing. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. Like a little bit of your weirdness, coming back across an old voice that I used to listen to, and listening to some of the weird abstract stuff out there.
Nice.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Well, it's been interesting because we've done 2 episodes where we had interviews, and it stretched out to 3 weeks. So I wasn't pressed to listen to anything for the podcast. So the stuff that I've been listening to has been, not podcast related. So, but yet podcast related. So, we mentioned the Aristocrats a few weeks ago. So I've been doing the Aristocrats a little bit.
Nice.
with Guthrie Govan and getting into some of their stuff, which I'm enjoying. And then I got back into Robert Randolph and the Family Band. And in fact, I actually mentioned it to you before we met with Darren last week. I might need to change my favorite album of Robert Randolph to Colorblind, because I've been listening to that nonstop. So there's two really great songs. One of them is called Blessed, which I'll play just a little bit of it.
Silver spoon he's given, and not one single care. Another child born.
So this is the album that's got Eric Clapton on it.
Right.
So this is a really great album. In fact, you know about this. I was in a car accident recently. I was listening to this album during the car accident, actually.
Were you really?
Yeah, I just turned it on. I turned the corner, and then I got hit right in the middle of the first track. So, but yeah. That was
That's too funny. So funny story. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you No.
You do your story, because I'll.
So funny story. I and this just happened. I was looking. Kyle texted me, and the pictures of his car. I was like, of course concerned, because it was a bad hit. Like, that was a bad hit. I mean,
it was a bad hit.
It you could see in the picture that it messed up your frame of your car.
Oh, it sure did. I couldn't get out of the driver's side. I had to crawl over to the passenger side.
Yeah.
I hit my head pretty good, and it was funny because the ambulance came, and he goes, "What month is it?" And I go, I don't even know. But then I went, "Is this my sleep apnea memory thing that I don't know what month it is, or is just me just not knowing what month it is?" It's like, "All right, it's August." He goes, "Do you know where you are?" I was like, "Well, this is going to sound bad." It's like, I drive this road every day. I don't know the name of the road, but I can tell you, down there's a Little Richard's, a Subway, an Arby's, a Jimmy John's, and a barbecue place. I said, "I'm a fat guy. I know where the food is." He goes, "All right, you're good."
That's great. So what makes this whole thing fun? That's actually really, really funny. We should just end there. I was looking at it. My son, 5 years old, goes, "Oh no, what happened?" I told him that Kyle was in a car accident. Now, if you've been around any kid around the ages 3, 4, 5, 6, on Disney Plus and on Disney, there's a show called PJ Masks about these 3 characters that fight bad guys in the evening in their PJs, and it's a cute show. It's well done, and the 3 main evil characters are named Romeo, Night Ninja, and Luna Girl. And my son saw the pictures and he goes, "Who did that?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Was it Romeo? Was it Night Ninja? Or was it Luna Girl?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's a good question." And I said, I'll have to ask Kyle. And we happened to get on a little earlier today, and we asked him, and Kyle was kind enough to play along and said it was in Romeo and gave him good reasons. And my son's now ready to figure out why Romeo did this. And it was just really funny, the whole week that he kept asking me about the pictures. He's like, "Did you find out who it was?"
Well, I told him, I said it had to be Romeo, because if it was a ninja, I wouldn't be able to see him because he's a ninja. And it was a guy, so, it couldn't have been a girl. So,
right,
it could have been a girl. So, of course, had to be Romeo.
So you were listening to probably your favorite album,
yep.
And most memorable now because of the car.
Yep. So, and the funny thing is the one of my favorite tracks on the song is the 9th track, which features my favorite artist of all time, Dave Matthews.
Really? That's so funny. I know you told me it was on the album. I just didn't know that was the song. That's too funny.
Yeah. So,
were you listening to that song at the time of the incident?
No. So this is a little bit of "Love Is the Only Way" with Dave Matthews and Rashawn Ross. So I don't hate everything he does, but close. So
That's too funny.
and then outside of that, I have a guilty pleasure playlist, and we had a big meeting for work on Thursday, and I played the guilty pleasure. It's 2 hours of like 90s music. It starts with Carly Rae Jepsen's "Call Me Maybe," and then ironically I put it at random, and the second track was Hansen's "Bop," and then it went right to All Star by Smash Mouth. And
Wait, is that song that old?
yeah, "Bop" is 97.
No, Call Me
No, I think
Maybe.
it's early 2000s, but it's mostly 90s stuff.
Oh, okay. I was like, is it really that?
No, that one is no, it's not 90s, but yeah. So I got Hootie and the Blowfish in there, and Blues Traveler, Spin Doctors are in there. I mean, some really good stuff.
I like
do
Blues
too, yeah.
Traveler.
While I call it a guilty pleasure, it's really not, because I like all of it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And I was okay. I actually announced it to the entire company that I was listening to it, and to stop by and come in and listen to it. So that's what I've been listening to.
Hey, it's like, when we were talking to Darren, I mean, he doesn't know as much as he knows without listening to it, without doing his research on it, and you make you've said it multiple times. It's not really guilty pleasure if we're not afraid to talk about it. So all right, so this episode I think we're both excited about, and Kyle is definitely the one who's far more knowledgeable about this than I am, so please lead on with this and share.
Sure. So August 26th, this album came out. This is Victor Wooten and Steve Bailey. They are two phenomenal bass players. We've talked about Victor a lot. Steve Bailey is his counterpart. Steve is the head of the bass department at Berklee School of Music. Steve has played with, the list that Steve has played with is crazy. Dizzy Gillespie, Scott Henderson, Leonard Skinner, Jethro Tull, Mel Torme, the Rippingtons. I mean, just the list goes on and on. Dave Benoit, Larry Carlton, just an amazing, amazing bass player. And he is known for his 6-string fretless bass. So if you picture an upright bass has no frets on it. So you have to know by muscle memory where all of these notes go. And the upright bass only has 4 strings. The 6-string bass obviously has 6 strings. So you have to know where all those notes are, and it's a rather big neck of the guitar, so you have to have pretty big hands to do it. And he's got really long fingers, and just watching him play, he's known for his 2-hand technique, where he kind of hammers on with both hands. Victor's kind of picked up a lot of that. And the other thing that he's really known for, and we might get into this a little bit, but he does a technique called what is it called? Virtual harmonics. So most people know that you can create harmonics by laying your finger on the fretboard of the note, and then you kind of pluck it or hit it with a pick, and it makes a higher pitch sound because only part of the string is vibrating. What he has figured out how to do is he actually, on his picking hand, his right hand, he lays his index finger over the string, and then he picks it with his middle finger. And what you could do with that is you can actually fret a note and then create the harmonic, and then move your hand around so it changes the pitch of the harmonic, which is just like, I mean, no one has ever like done that like as much as he does. He's kind of perfected the technique. So that's what he's known for.
Would that technique work on a fretted bass?
It would, yes.
So it has nothing to do with the fact that he can slide over the strings because it's fretless.
No.
It's just the technique itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance, because the frets are there. There's more of a chance of it stopping the pitch,
right? Because
as you go over the note, there's a little bit of interference that can stop the actual vibration from happening. But I mean, the more impressive thing for me is the fact that he's got 6 strings on this bass, and he has to know exactly where all these notes are. And I think you have to, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you have to have a really good ear, because I mean, on a guitar, if you play, there's frets, right? So if you put your hand on the spot where the G would be, like, as long as your string is in tune, like, that's a G. On a fretless bass, if you're off by like a quarter of an inch,
Right.
It's either sharp or flat. Like,
Right.
and it can change the tone. But the cool thing is, and this is something that we really haven't talked about, sometimes it's okay to be a little bit sharp or a little bit flat because it makes the whole chord change. And
Right.
it, even though you're playing the right note, having it slightly out of tune, this is something we talked about a little bit with the acapella stuff. Having it a little bit out of tune might even be better.
Right.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. So they formed this group called Basic Streams back in 1998. And it was, they led into this kind of Victor and Steve, obviously, Steve being the head of the Berkeley Bass School, he is a teacher at heart. And then Victor, of course, we've talked about him being a teacher as well. The two of them kind of used this Basic Streams as a way to teach other bass players, and get other bass players interested in how to learn how to play the bass. So the idea behind Basic Streams is more of a teaching thing. And there's a quote from both Victor and Steve about this new album called Slow Down. So it says, the first of Dual Meanings is clear about this album. Low down of the bass. So it's, if you take the S off, it's low down, but with the S, it's S apostrophe low. So it's also slow down. Offers deeper implications. So what Victor says, as you get older and wiser, you learn how to say more with less. We tell all our students that a lot. Slow down. Bailey concurs, adding, for most musicians, myself included, you spend the first part of your career proving what you can play and trying to innovate and get it out there. So that's very much what I was talking about with Steve with his virtual harmonics.
Right.
And Victor, when he first came out, he was all about this thumb slap technique. So typically when you slap a bass, you hit the string and then you come right back up. So you're actually slapping it, and you hit it and come right off. What Victor realized is that if he did that instead of going and bouncing off the string, if he went through the string and let it stop, he could then use his thumb and pluck it on the way back. So what he can do is with the same motion, play two notes.
Right.
So that's where his technique comes in. So for most musicians, myself included, this is Steve Bailey. For most musicians, myself included, you spend the first part of your career proving what you can play and trying to innovate and get it out there. What this album typifies for me is been there, done that. Now it's about what the least amount we can bring to the music and still make it work. How we can move slower and actually go faster.
That's very cool.
And that's something that Victor talks about a lot in his interviews. How to stay relaxed when playing and how to, let the music, because if you're tense, you can't let the music flow through you, and he's all about that. So it's interesting how all of these guys they're on the same page all the time,
which is really funny because when we spoke about Ava Cassidy, they spoke about her rigidness and how she wasn't as fluid on stage as some singers are, yet
but her technique was
right. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. Like and I'm sure you can attest to this. You go through your training, you learn how to do the perform, play, whatever you want to say. And everybody tells you, there is a technique in the sense of, let's say, singing, how to sing. But getting there can be different for each person. And everybody you talk to tells you a different way to relax or do this. But because it has to do with you, which I think you've said, Victor Wooten has said multiple times. It's not like I could teach you how to sing, or you could teach me how to play piano or French horn or whatever, but ultimately it's going to be me.
Right.
Like I'm not going to play the horn the same way that you play the horn. I'm not going to be relaxed the same way that you're relaxed.
Right. Yep.
And I think that's huge. Being that these are considered like educational, can we start like backwards and go to like one of their first albums?
Absolutely.
And kind of, because I'm sure we're going to hear changes amongst the albums. That's very interesting.
Let's start with the first one, Basic Streams. This is called Cookbook. This is the album called Cookbook. There's some really cool stuff on here. The first one that I was going to bring up was a track called What So.
I love looking at album artwork and how they change over the years. Like that one is so 90s. Whereas
I know.
where the Just Add Water, which is their second album, has a 90s, but that 2000, like we're almost in that graphics field. And then 2022 is like as simple as it can be, but it's far more beautiful than the other two.
So this is the fourth track off the album called What So. This is about 3.5 minutes. And I bring this one up for a very important reason. You know, this is something that, so there are two bass players and a drummer. So the basses are all in the same area. They're in the same like spectrum of sound. But the most interesting thing, I think, is despite them, first off, it doesn't sound muddy. And if you listen, there are two distinct sounds. You can tell exactly when Victor takes over, and you can tell exactly when Steve takes over. And there's a little conversation that's going on back and forth here. And these albums are very much like this. You could hear that difference in tone and the difference in style. You know, Victor's much more slappy, and then Steve's much more finger kind of melodic, you know, and chordal structure. So it's interesting to hear that, and you can hear that difference once you get to know the two sounds. As these albums go through, you can pick out who's playing what, which I think is really interesting.
And that comes down to technique, and it comes down to, like we were just saying, that your own ability takes over. But back to what Victor Wooten says is we're, in a sense, I don't want to say we're teaching wrong, but we're teaching wrong. Is that we're like, we're going to build a robot. So every student that comes in, we're going to make them do the exact same thing. And they're saying, well, that's not the case, because when they get to a certain point, they're going to be like, well, I don't have to play it this way. So even though they have to learn the structure, at some point in our young lives, or young lives of a musician, they should be allowed to break free from that rigid teaching.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So that was off a Cookbook.
That's off a Cookbook. Yep. The next track, Acoustic Brew, has got them both playing upright bass. And again, once you understand their styles, you can easily pick out who's playing what. And to me, it's just interesting because, you know, these two guys are not known for their upright bass playing, but, you know, even when I saw them, so when I saw them, that concert that I've talked about in the past that I took pictures at, you know, they both played upright bass. In fact, Victor even played cello. But Steve was there playing on that show. So it was cool to meet him. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's so Victor Wooten is a bass player, but not a upright bass player.
Yes, he's known for, his specialty is electric bass.
Right. No, that's how I know him. Did I tell
the Chick Corea story? I don't know if I told.
I don't think you did. I don't.
Maybe I did.
Like, I know Victor Wooten as an electric bass. I don't know him as an upright. I don't know his history enough to know if he had played it. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, he played the cello as a kid, I think.
That's what I thought. Right.
But I mean, upright bass, and I remember there was a Chick Corea, his 75th birthday concert. he actually asked Victor to come and play upright bass. And Victor was like,
right. I think you did mention this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's not known for that, but he does play it.
Well, I mean, not. I don't play strings, and I know you've probably dabbled. So it's the same fingering, is it not?
Right.
Okay.
But again, you got no frets to worry about. It's
right.
It's it's upright as opposed to sideways,
right, sure.
And it's bigger, so his challenges of reaching around and all that sort of stuff. So there's different things going on there.
But if you had a fretted bass,
yeah, I mean the strings are the same,
right.
And the relationship between the notes, and I mean it's all scientific, when it comes down to it. You shorten the string enough, it becomes a different pitch.
Right, exactly.
So that was
cool.
from
Cool.
1998 was when that album came out. The next one came out 3 years later. This is called Just Add Water, and this is the first track off the album called Tropical Storm. So again, you can hear a very clear difference between the two different styles. In the very beginning, Steve was the one that was doing kind of the lead part, and at the very end, Victor was the one that took over. So it's very different style, very different sound. They're playing, and it was what's interesting is that because Steve was playing the lead, Victor was playing the bass line, and then they flipped it. So it's kind of cool to how that all works.
It's interesting. Like I said, you're far more versed in the Victor Wooten realm than I am, especially the fact that you introduced me to Bela Fleck and the Flecktones and Victor Wooten. It's interesting to listen to Victor Wooten and Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, because even though they're different, there's still certain things that happen within the music that it's like they, not to bring this up, but it's like they built their own universe of music. Like you have the MCU for the comics, and all these other places now are trying to build this universe within their stuff, and it's like Bela Fleck and the Flecktone and Victor Wooten are all connected under this one timeline because there's one thing inside. I don't like how to pinpoint it and whatever. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying like there's this one thing that you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is familiar, cool.
Yep.
And like you said, it's different. It's. I'm not saying that their songs are the same in any way, shape, or form, but there's just something with the production value of it and how it's put together that you're just like, okay, these musicians are, there. They know what they're doing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. So I mean, another great album. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because we have a whole album to get through.
Yes.
So we'll fast forward 20 years. This one came out, what was it, 2001, I think it was? Yeah, 2001. So 2022, we have Slow Down. And this is a really interesting one because he invited some other guests for the other two Basic Streams albums, not nearly as many as he invited to this new one. So this new one has got Bootsy Collins, Marcus Miller, John Patitucci, Oteil Burbridge, just Mike Stern, Billy Sheehan. There's just an amazing amount of music. Bela Fleck, Jeff Coffin's on here. I mean,
Matt White, Mike Stern, all these names. Linda O, who's a cellist. Oteil Burbridge.
Yep.
Like not knowing the names, and I mean, I knew some of the names. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, I didn't read through it. I just played it, and like the first song hooks you into the album.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's not really
for sure.
It's not a it's a song, but it's like, yeah, definitely hooks you in.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give you, I mean, you know, O'Teal Burbridge, he is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to type in and talk at the same time. O'Teal Burbridge, Allman Brothers was who he played with. John Patitucci has played with, where's his list here? Because I'm going to get it wrong. Chick Corea, Stanley Clark, you know, so he's more of the fusion stuff. Al Di Meola. I mean, and that's the cool thing is like you start listening to some of these bass players that he's got here. You know, O'Teal Burbridge playing with the Allman Brothers. John Patitucci, you know, so it's, you know, rock. And then you got John Patitucci, who's more jazz fusion. You know, you've got Linda O, the cellist, classical cellist. I think she's classical.
Yeah, she's classical.
You know, and you know Matt White playing the flugelhorn. You know, it's like, and they got, you know, Jeff Coffin playing saxophone and Bela Fleck playing the banjo. So there's just a huge range of just styles on this album. And the way they start the album, I mean, I don't think there's a better way to start an album other than you know, Bootsy Collins. I mean, that's just, I mean, the iconic voice of Bootsy is just like, you know. So here's the opening track, a little bit of it.
Galactic Oscillation.
Now I give you
Paranormal Observations, baby.
Steve Bailey.
Yeah.
And Victor Wooten. Basic String. You know what I mean. Yeah, I'm a basadelic fiend. Yeah, baby.
So Bootsy, of course, is from Cincinnati. He's, you know, just down the road from me, I think. And he actually was a very instrumental, no pun intended, for another group that recently launched a new album. Let me bring them up quickly before. A group called Silk Sonic. Have you ever heard of Silk Sonic?
Love Silk Sonic.
Yes.
One of the coolest things to come out of the pandemic.
Yeah. So Bootsy actually named that group.
Right.
So that's Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. So here's just a little bit of Leave the Door Open, and then just...
So good.
Say baby, what you doing? Where you at? Oh, you got plans. Don't say that. Shut your trap. I'm sipping wine. In a robe.
So I know this is not a Bruno Mars thing, but you know, Bootsy had a big hand in that. So, and of course, you know, Bootsy is just Bootsy. I mean, he's just amazing.
But listen to Silk Sonic, people. Just go and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take a listen to Silk Sonic.
So you brought something up about how he brought all these people together, and once before you quoted him, and I would love if you see this again. It has something to do with where he's humble. He knows what he's doing, and he knows he needs to be cocky.
Yes.
In order to play, and I think this proves it.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, what he realizes, and I think that what a lot of other musicians who strive to be as good as him don't realize is, like, he's not intimidated to bring these guys, you know, around with him, because he knows that they can't do what he does, and what he does is be himself. You know, I mean, Marcus Miller is a phenomenal bass player. No matter how good he is, he can't be Victor Wooten.
Right, and Victor Wooten can't be
the same thing. Exactly,
right.
He can't be him.
Right.
You know, and I remember I saw Victor open up for Stanley Clark, and you know, like, Victor's like, this was the tail end of the tour. He's like, I watch every show because I love Stanley. He is so much better than I am. I learn stuff by watching him, but at the same time, Stanley is not Victor, and he will never be. But then again, Victor's not Stanley, and he will never be.
And I think that's why these musicians will come together with him, because he's not trying to be better than them. Right, he's just being himself, and he wants them to be like. We are not talking together right now because I want you to act a certain way and you want me to act a certain way. We want each other to be our own person. And that's why it works. And So I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was
yeah.
really
and I think the other thing that is, I mean, I think part of it is because he spends so much time teaching too. Like he understands that when a lot of other musicians don't.
Right.
You know, he knows the way to the way to get the best out of people.
Right.
So, and he owes that, and he'll be the first to admit it. He owes that to his brother Reggie. You know, he's talked so much about how Reggie teaches, and what Reggie will do is when he's sitting there teaching you, he says he will find the one thing that you know really well. He'll go learn it himself, and then use that to teach you music. You know, if you like skateboarding, he's going to learn skateboarding and somehow figure out a way to weave music into it, and then teach you how to play music.
Right.
That's how you know, and that's how I try to teach that way too.
That I brought that to the classroom when I was able to be in the classroom with kids. You find what the kid is good at, and you use that to teach with them. And you can incorporate the whole class or just the individual at that time.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, I know we're going to talk a lot about this when we really do some time on Victor Wooten himself, but it's just look what he does, just in the sense of us talking. So. Yep. Please continue and share.
So next track, Home Base. We've talked about him a little bit. Marcus Miller is on this track, and again, the cool thing about this whole thing, just like the first two albums, you can hear the tone difference. You can hear, how they all fit together. It's just you can easily pick them out. There's the style difference, the tone difference, and in this one, we've got 4 bass players. We got Marcus Miller, we got Victor Wooten. We got Steve Bailey, and we've got John Patitucci, all playing bass. That's 4 bass players. You know, again, they're all in that same spectrum. Once you start overloading that spectrum, it gets really muddy, but it doesn't, because they know how to deal with it. So here's a little bit of home bass. What I didn't realize when I listened to this the first few times, because I had my speakers off to the side, and I wasn't sitting in front of them, so I didn't get the normal spatialness. And now that I'm using in-ear monitors, I didn't realize the panning that goes on. It's wild.
That was one of the things I caught a little bit of it only because I was playing through a MacBook Pro and it was like right in front of me. But yeah. Having headphones on makes a world of difference listening to this. Yeah. Or speakers properly placed.
Yeah, I have 2 speakers to my right in my office. So I actually moved my 2 of my hi-fi speakers into my office. I figured I'm there more than I am at home, so I'll enjoy them while I'm at work. The next track, the Chrome Addict, and I didn't. So this is Victor again being as brilliant as he is. I didn't realize, put 2 and 2 together, and maybe it's the brain thing going on again. But the Chrome Addict is all about chromaticism and chromatic notes. Didn't get it.
That's okay. And don't always put it towards your sleep. Sometimes it's just you, Kyle.
But this one, of course, has got some of my favorite musicians. It's got Bela Fleck. It's got Howard Levy on the harmonica. It's Oteil Burbridge, Steve Bailey again.
This is a good track.
And Susan Hagen. Yeah, this is a really good track. So this is called the Chrome Addict. I'm so mad at Dave Matthews. I have to say, I did this. So we've gotten to a little bit of why I don't like Dave Matthews. Here's another reason. Jeff Coughlin used to be part of the Flecktones, and he left to play with Dave Matthews, and I'm still not over it. I mean, yes, they brought Howard Levy back to play with the Flecktones, but Jeff Coughlin is something special. I mean, he is just. I mean, I know it says clarinet. That's not clarinet. That's bass clarinet. There's some cool bass clarinet things going on there, and Howard Levy on the harmonica. Like, I didn't hear that when I was again listening in my office, but now that I got these in-ear monitors on. That harmonica is just another level of goodness to the whole track. It's just awesome.
And
it's great.
It's funny because I played this going into work when it came out, and this is while I was driving, and I was like, I need to listen to this at home because it so much is happening, but in such a good way that you don't want to miss it. And I was when I was working from home the past few days, I put it on as like, I don't want to say background music, but something to listen to. And even then I was like, I can't. I got to put something else on.
Yeah.
Because you really want to take in the song. So yeah, it's just some of the songs you're just kind of like you see, you just like you did when it happened. You banged your head on the microphone. You just want to bang your head on something. So.
Yep. And I'll say this, I mean, this is one of the downsides to my car accident is I had that thing sounded good, and, I got the new car I picked up on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday or was it Monday? Monday. It is nowhere near where it should be. So I got a long way of upgrades to that sound system, and I didn't realize I had a loaner car before that, listening to stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I miss my other car,
What did you? How much did you chain it? The speakers, everything. You put amps in there.
Oh yeah. There was all speakers all around. There were tweeters in the door. Full amp. Every speaker was amplified. Subwoofer.
Yeah, that's my next vehicle, not my current, because I.
So.
But that
I'm already making a list of what I want.
But it's amazing though. Excuse me. It's amazing what you realize it's lacking.
Yeah.
You hear everybody like they change their car systems and they put like you're not doing it to bring the bass out. You're not doing it to play the music loud. You're changing it in such a way where you feel like you're encompassed by the music. And that's what this music does.
Exactly. When I was in my car and with my sound systems here, it feels like you are sitting in the same room and they are just surrounding you. And you get to hear all the stuff all around you. And it was funny because when I went to pick up my rental car, it was a BMW, and they were all excited. Oh, you got a BMW? I'm like, whatever, it's a car, I don't care, And I got in the car and I put on the first song. I forget what it was, but it was like the musicians were so far away from me, and it was like I could hear the distance between me and the sound, and it's just not turning up the volume or the gain, like. There's those speakers. They just put you in that place, and like I miss that, having that feeling, and I have to get back to that. So, I know I've said in the past that speakers aren't everything, but they make a big difference. I have to be honest with you.
But it makes a difference where you are.
Yeah,
you can get the feel of something, throughout anything you listen to. But you said this in previous, and we talked about this previously. You can get a sound on a $10 pair of headphones, and they could definitely sound good. But if you take that $10 pair of headphones and then you invest in a $100 pair of headphones, you're going to hear things that you didn't hear on the $10.
Yep.
And then as that goes up and up and up, the same thing. So it's the same thing in a car. Like, it's not that the speakers you're getting on factory are horrible. Right. It's just that that you can upgrade them and get even more. Yeah. And it's kind of like this album. Like your first one to this one, you're getting even more because he's developed relationships with all these different musicians.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so moving on. The next track is called Mess That Up. This features Matt White on the flugelhorn and trumpet, and Mike Stern also on the bass guitar. So Mess That Up. I think this is one of my favorite ones, Mess That Up. I need to listen to this album again on these headphones because it's just I missed so much. My goodness. So Greg Bissonet's the one that's doing the little scat singing. I had no idea they was left and then right and then left and then right. I had no idea it was panned differently.
Is that because you were listening to those speakers that are to your right?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they're both to my right and I couldn't.
No, of course. No. I mean, it makes absolute sense. I'm just saying, like, did you listen to it anywhere else and not hear it either?
I had it on in the car with the rental car, and it's just, okay. I mean, when they do that, they just
makes sense. Yeah, right back to what you said. The speaker. Yeah,
I mean, that's just a cool track. There's just so much. I mean, that's my kind of track. There's a lot going on. It's fast. It's jazz. There's just so much going on.
And it's one of those ones that you listen to multiple times to figure out what's happening.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Next one, Ping Pong. Edgar Meyer. I mean, another musician that, other genre. It's just so much going on. This is called Ping Pong. I'm going to stop it right there. First off, again, the panning back and forth blew my mind again. There's just in the last 2 seconds, there's this little thing that Steve does. It goes boop. That's that thing I was talking about before, where he does the mute or the harmonic with his thing, with his finger, and slides his hand up. You can hear it. It is on a chord actually, right here in these last couple seconds. That boop. That thing right there. So
sounds like a theremin.
It does, and that's the cool thing is he's able to get that sort of sound,
right?
Without having So, oh wow,
it's funny to as you guys know, we're in separate states and we're watching each other through Zoom, which we're not sponsored by Zoom. We're not sponsored by Zoom.
Not sponsored.
We're not sponsored. That's a shirt right there, not sponsored. And watching Kyle move and his eyes go, WTF. that happened. Like, it's just it's hysterical to watch. It's really great. So there's one song in here that I think you should skip and play at the end and not tell anybody about it. It's track number 8 because I think it's just fun, But we could definitely end it and basically what your text was to me when you said it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Please move on because you're handling this so well. You're handling so well.
Hotel Billy is a song that features Billy Sheehan on the guitar. Who else is on this track? Is it just Billy Sheehan? O'Toole Burbridge is on this one as well. Oh, and Linda O. This is what Linda O is on. So, we said this all the time with Victor. It's like every album that he comes out with, there's just so much good stuff on it, and he says it. We've said it. His albums are designed that you should listen from start to finish,
right?
And there's so much meaning behind all of this stuff, and that's one of the things that I meant to mention earlier. There's songs like Madonna Lee on, I think is it on Cookbook or is it on Just Dead Water? I think it's Just Dead Water. But it's a homage to Donna Lee by Jaco Pastorius, but it's got some Madonna influence in it. So there's all these little plays on words, and Victor loves doing that sort of stuff. And he's got that album Sword and Stone, Words and Tones. There's all these double meanings and things behind it. So the Hotel Billy is a little features Billy Sheehan. So. And in case you don't know, Billy Sheehan, bass player for Steve Vai and David Lee Roth. So, again, more genres to throw at you.
And it's funny, I have listened to Linda O before, but I never assume it's the same person because other people could have the same name. So I had to go and check and to see if it was the same cellist. And it's cool to see that mix of musicians play together.
Yep. All right, next track, Patchwork. This is John Patitucci again, and Steve and Greg. We haven't talked much about Greg Bissonette. So Greg Bissonette was the drummer on the first two ones, so he came back to do the third one. And when they went on tour, Greg did the first half of the tour, I think, and then Dorico Watson took over. I've seen Dorico play with Victor. Dorico is one of Victor's favorite drummers. Him and Carter Beauford of course, Dave Matthews Band. But so this is called Patchwork, which features John Patitucci. I know I brought it up so many times, but again, that was a clear indication, very, very different bass sounds, and as each one comes in doing a different thing, it sounds different. And it's just you can sit there and say, well, of course they're different people, but if you think about it, it's the same instrument, how do you get an electric instrument to sound different just by putting it in someone else's hands? I get it, there's different, different woods that the basses are made out of, and they're probably putting it through different amps and different processors and all that sort of stuff, but it's really interesting to hear the different sounds and why they changed them. And I didn't get into this, but Victor's sound has changed tremendously since his first two albums.
Yes.
He went through a big change, and honestly, I like the old stuff better. But I know why he's changed, and I get it, and it makes complete and total sense. He used to have this huge rack of stuff behind him, and now it's basically he plays through a Hartke preamp and an amp. Or a Hartke cabinet. But he likes that simplicity. But I like his tone better back in the early days.
Yeah, but you bring up a point where, not that I play acoustic guitar, but if I played acoustic guitar and you played it, and we were sitting around playing and jamming, and I played a song out, and you're like, let me have the guitar, you're going to make that instrument sound different than I did.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's the same thing with the piano too. I've played the same piano as other people, and it's a very clear different sound.
Yeah.
As how you attack the key and how your hands relax.
Yeah.
It's the same instrument, but just the person behind it.
Yeah.
And it's not just the style of stuff. It's the actual sound of the instrument.
Right. No, that's the beautiful thing. All right. So the next track,
we're going to skip the next track because that's the one that
I think that'd be a great one to end off with.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then track number 9 is one that we actually played a few weeks ago when they actually released the album. The pre-release they did this. called Just in Time. This features Justin Chancellor of Tool.
I enjoy that track a lot. I really do.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. I think my favorite still messed that up, I think.
Yeah. No, I that one stands out to me just because I love the grittiness to it. It's you know, and it is a lot different than the other tracks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last track is a track called Slow Down, which is the title track of the album. And it's just Victor and Greg and Steve. And I want to go back and talk about one more thing because I forgot to mention this earlier, but this is Slow Down. And this goes back to what they were talking about, you know, the thing I read earlier, just about, you know, going through and slowing down. And if you listen to the way that the basses are playing, they are totally slowing down, but Greg is going crazy on the drums, you know, and it's just that juxtaposition of those two things going on is just really kind of interesting.
It's awesome. It's a well done album. It's definitely is.
Yeah. It's just, and I think this track, and I think this album reminds me. So years ago, Victor had his website. It was awful looking in purple, but I loved it. And he had on there stories. I forget what he called, words of wisdom or something. And in typical Victor fashion, it was just, you know, these stories that, you know, relate to your life. And I remember the one story was, there was a guy, he was a CEO of a company. He had a really fancy car. He was driving down the road and he felt something hit his car and he slammed on the brakes, came out, and there was a kid there. And he just starts yelling and screaming at this kid because he saw that the kid threw a brick at his car. And he starts yelling and screaming, you know, why'd you do this? You hit my car, it's ruined, you know, all this sort of stuff. And the kid was sitting there, he was crying. He said, I'm sorry, but my brother fell out of his wheelchair and I can't get him back in his car. No one would stop, no one would help me. And the guy was like, whoa. So he, you know, went and helped the kid, drove them home. And the moral of the story is, you know, don't go through life so fast that someone has to throw a brick at you to get your attention.
Wow.
I think that this album is that's that story is this album, I think.
That's crazy. That's good comparison.
Yeah. And that's something that I think that we do too much these days because it's so easy to just kind of, you know, go through life and do whatever. And, you know, before you know it, you know, I mean, here we are. I mean, it's September 2nd already.
I know.
Kids are back at school. It's crazy how fast the summer went and, you know, all this sort of stuff.
It's like that old saying, you know, stop and smell the roses. And the past couple of years, because of this pandemic, which we're quote unquote not fully through yet, there's still stuff going on, but has there's two ways you could look at it. It took 2 years out of your life because you couldn't do much, or it gave you 2 years of your life to reevaluate what your life is and what you're doing with it. And a lot of the stories that you have coming out of it are people that hit rock bottom. But when they hit that rock bottom, they were like, I really wasn't where I wanted to be.
Right.
And it gave these people an opportunity to reevaluate. So I'm not, I'm not trying to make a great thing out of a really bad situation, but it's slowing down. Like, it slowed us down. The only thing that it did for us in the sense of speeding up, it forced businesses and education to flip how they were doing things. That's where the speed up process is. But at that same time that happened, it forced you to reevaluate what was going on and slow yourself down. Zoom calls are not always fun to be on, but they're convenient now. Now I don't have to get in my car and travel to go to this meeting if I can't make it. Maybe it's a 3-hour trip, 4-hour trip, and I can't make that 3 or 4 hour trip. I can still be there in some way, shape, or form. And I don't have to say to myself, all right, now I got to pack my bags. I got to be out of house for 3 days. I'm going to lose these 3 days because I'm going to be away. So I'm not going to be able to do this. And now you're like, okay, this one I can't make, but I can get on the Zoom and I can be a part of it, so I can still take care of those things or do those things I want to do. You're absolutely right. I feel like we are we're spiraling faster than we should, and it's because everybody wants to come out of what we were in, so they're trying to speed up that process. But we still need to slow down a little bit before this to really be the album came out at a very interesting time, like his meaning. And it's amazing because every time we talk about him, this is what happens. We get into this philosophical outlook on how we approach things, and it goes to show you how much impact music, whether intentionally or unintentionally, can change your thought process when just in anything that you do, whether it's the grand scheme of life or just the little things. Like, you know what, tomorrow I'm not going to go do this. I'm going to go do that because that'll feel good, or whatever the case may be. Right. So your initial listening to it was at your place of work with the speakers to the right. So you didn't get the full exposure of what this album is. And is this the first time you're listening to it full exposure? Because some of your reactions were very, like first time. And do you
it was very similar to when I first got into when I found that Amber Rubarth album, and I started to realize that like the instruments were coming from a different spot,
right?
That binaural recording. It was, and then I went back to Stevie Wonder stuff, and I started like hearing things that I'd never heard before. It's like, I've listened to this album like 8 or 9 times at this point, but now hearing it through these in-ear monitors, like, which are, in my ears, they're on the same level of quality-wise as the speakers I have at work, but now that they're spaced properly, and like now I'm hearing stuff that I never heard before.
Well, we all know there's a space there between your ears. giant space. But it's cool because it's like, you're listening to it and you're like, oh, it sounds good. And then you're putting the headphones on and you're like, oh my goodness, it sounds really good. Like, this is really good. Like, and I think that's the cool thing about music too, is that because you can listen to it on any level of speakers and headphones, and because you can get experience from any level of speaker of headphones, those $10 headphones may make you hear something that you wouldn't have expected to hear. And then those $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 headphones are going to make you hear it at a larger spectrum. Like, you're not missing anything. You're gaining everything. That's, I think, a great look at it. You're gaining everything no matter what you're listening to it on. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So cool.
And just because, you mentioned the lockdown, there was a interview that I found of Victor talking about what he's been doing. So The question was, how have you been passing time during the lockdown? He said, I've been relaxing for the most part, playing music very little and spending a lot of time with my family, which I haven't previously been able to do enough of. This is the longest I've been home in probably 20 years, so my family comes first. I'm also getting a lot done in terms of organizing my life and my house.
And it's funny because 2020, when everything was it 2020 or 2021? Maybe it's 2021. One of the music programs that I deal with when it comes to schools is becoming fairly popular because they offer a lot of capabilities for band teachers and alike within the school. And he was their keynote speaker for one of their full day virtual one. And I had the pleasure of being able to sit in and listen to him speak. And that was very him. Like, that's kind of what he spoke about. And it's really funny because when he was talking, he's, excuse me, I'm at home, of course, doing this, and I'm having work done on my house. You know, and it was just so, I think for everybody who was there, who they were listening to him because they knew who he was. But that humbling aspect of things, it's like, you know, just like you guys, I'm getting stuff done. So this had to be 2021 because he had people in the house. So I'm sure it was more of a, but you definitely got that impression that he slowed down.
Right.
You know, he slowed down. Absolutely. And, you know, he did say a few things about his family and all that stuff. It was very cool. But, this was a very cool album to listen to, and definitely want to listen to it again, either with better headphones, better speakers on my end too.
And one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, so there's several artists on here, like Bela Fleck, Mike Stern, Howard Levy, Jeff Coffin. They're not bass players, but Bela Fleck played a bass banjo, and Mike Stern played a 6-string bass, and Howard Levy played a bass harmonica, and Jeff Coffin played bass clarinet and bass flute. So it's all about the bass on this.
No treble?
Despite no treble.
Oh, man. Did you plan that? Like, was that planned? No.
Nope.
That was a poorly planned dad joke.
It was. Don't start me on dad jokes. Nick will kill me.
I heard one earlier, but I cannot repeat it on here. We can, after we're done recording, I can repeat it.
Well, it's funny because I was actually doing a little bit of research about drummers. And did you know that most drummers, they name their twin children the same thing? Anna 1, Anna 2.
Oh, my goodness.
Wah, wah. You know what we need after that? The joke that goes, 2 drums and a cymbal fall off a hill. But
wow. You really do need sleep. No,
thanks, everyone. Tip your waitresses.
I'm here all week. So this is episode 23.
23, yeah.
We are giving you an episode 24, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just a cool way to round out what we've done. We'll probably.
And the cool thing is for those of you that are sick of hearing me talk, you get to hear CJ talk for a little while.
I talk fairly enough with
you. Do.
And then we'll take a break just because we want to have a little fun chatting and talking about some things, and we'll come back around towards the end of the spook season with a fun holiday episode that'll lead us into holiday music, and we'll probably have some of our. We'll try to bring Darren back and Nick back and Rachel back and Nickel back, and we'll do some. That's my dad joke for the night. So we are going to play that song that we skipped because Kyle was listening to the album, took the opportunity.
Actually, before you do that,
okay, let's go.
I want to just for our listeners. I'm just curious. I know I mentioned a little bit of this to you a couple of weeks ago, maybe. So one of the things, I have some ideas for season 2, and I just want to see, just kind of gauge interest. So you can either answer this question either on Twitter or on Instagram, or through our email. All of those links are in our show notes. But just out of curiosity, one of the things that I'm thinking about doing is opening up a pre-show. So I typically get on to my computer because of my sleep stuff. I hop onto the computer early just so I don't fall asleep and miss the recording. And I listen to some music while I do that. I was thinking about jumping on a live stream and doing that. And, if CJ's got more obligations than I do with his family, because it's just me and my 3 dogs. So I have the ability to hop on. So if you guys want to hop on, we could do a live stream. Just some things that we're thinking about doing. Just if you're interested in that sort of stuff, just let me know. I just kind of want to gauge the interest. We're thinking about getting together a little bit of a Patreon type thing and offering a tier system eventually, because while we love doing this, this costs us money. So we pay for our podcast hosting, we pay for storage of the backups that we do and the hard drive space, and the microphones that we use are expensive, and when they fail, it's nice to have backups. And as you bring more people in, it takes, the equipment does cost money. So, not that we don't like doing this for free, but, we also want to kind of break even a little bit. So,
and if there's any merch that you may be interested in, is there anything specifically that you like? Hats, shirts? Because we're not sure where to go with that. We don't know if we should do full spectrum or just focus on a few items. And, we've had some interesting quotes, and we may actually throw them on the shirts for fun. Yeah. I think that's an awesome question to find out where to go with it. And please keep an ear out or an eye out on social media, because we are looking to do something sometime during the holiday time. We're looking to potentially do a live version. We'll talk more about that, and we may even we're looking into potentially working with a charity to just raise some money for the holiday time. So keep an eye out as we bring more of that stuff in. So any information you can give us, what Kyle was asking, please, we encourage it. We want that interaction. This is more about sharing with you than it is for us. We enjoy sharing with each other. We text all the time about it, but it would be great to connect and share whatever you feel you'd like to hear, and whatever we can do, and the routes that you like to go.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm going to read the closing.
Yay.
Do you remember what you text me? And what?
I do. Yes.
After I read the closing, please say what you text me and play the song, because I just think it was a hysterical text and so random. And at first I was like, what the heck are you talking about? So Kyle, thank you. This is good. I'm glad we took the time to go through this album.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to Turn On The Music, the podcast. We hope that you join us next week. Follow us on Twitter at Turn On The Music and on Instagram at Turn On The Music Podcast. If you like what you heard, share it with a friend. And if you really want to help us promote the show, head over to Apple Podcast or the podcast service of your choice and give us a 5-star rating. Remember, always share the music.
And now it's time for a little Christmas in August, even though it's September. This is called Silent Night in Tunisia by Victor Wooten.